It was the opening of the 16th century. The bubonic plague had already claimed over 100 million lives, killing off over 30% of the European population. 1 out of every 4 children never reached the age of 5 years old. Because bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death, was not understood at the time, the common belief was that the plague was the punishment and wrath of God on a sinful people. During this time of immense suffering, torment, death, and disease, people looked to the Holy Roman Catholic Church for comfort through the promise of heaven. Due to the church claiming to hold the keys to the gates of heaven, it became the richest and most powerful institution in the world. Monasteries had become money-making cash cows that were able to squeeze every last penny out of the poor by charging for a variety of services. Everything from rent, mandatory tithes, use of the church's mill to grind your grain, tolls, brewing beer because the drinking water was too dirty to drink were among the church's services, not to mention the fees that were charged for weddings, funerals, baptisms, and more. It seemed as though every time a peasant did anything, they were paying the church for the right to do it. The church did not ask for the support of the people, but demanded it. And people were willing to give to the church because they believed without the church, their souls would be lost. By the year 1510, a German monk by the name of Martin Luther had finally reached the city of Rome, which was considered the very heartbeat of the church. He figured by making this trip to Rome, he would find the God of mercy he was seeking for desperately. To his chagrin, what he found was the ultimate money-making entity. He found huge palaces, fortresses, the finest and most expensive architecture and artwork that he had ever witnessed. People who had taken their pilgrimage to the city could buy indulgences that would allow them to decrease the amount of time they had to spend suffering in purgatory before reaching heaven. The higher the fee one paid, the shorter the time in purgatory. What faithful Christian would not wish to reduce the amount of time they spent burning out their sins in a fire of purification? Needless to say, the church profited greatly. Over time, Martin Luther came to the realization that the institution of the church was not needed for salvation. No one needed the priest to intercede for them in order to connect with God. Luther no longer believed in the necessity of the ceremonies of the church for salvation and saw the money-making monster for what it was. He was able to see past the services the church offered to the community and see the real motivation for the corrupt entity, not from the outside looking in, but from the inside looking out. It bothered him greatly that the church used the ignorance of its followers to fund the gaudy ambitions of a few men up top. People were afraid that if they did not fund the church and do exactly as they were told, that Black Death would come to their doorstep. When Luther saw this, his response was not to remain silent and pray. He did not keep his mouth shut and claim that he would never put his mouth on the Pope. Luther did not simply talk privately with a few friends, but he did what all reformers in history have done. He spoke up. He took the veil off the church, exposing it for what it was so that its victims no longer would have to stay under its manipulative and abusive ways. Sadly, there are those in our churches in America today that do not agree with the methods of Luther. They believe that you should never speak ill of the church or its leadership while failing to realize the reason why they have a Methodist, Presbyterian, Baptist, Apostolic, Church of God in Christ, Church of God, Assembly of God, or any other Protestant church to attend is because someone decided to stand up to the church in the 16th century and do it publicly. How long will we watch our children endure molestation and say nothing? How many offering lines will we continue to get in with the promise of wealth and prosperity only to sink deeper and deeper into poverty? How long will we watch our young brothers and sisters be passed back and forth between bishops as sexual currency? How long will we watch our parents give up their retirement money to fund unnecessary extravagance under the guise of ministry? How long will we watch people gay bash in public and live a homosexual lifestyle in private? At what point is silence a sin and speaking up righteousness? I submit to you the proof of human history. Whenever reformation has come to any system, it did not come through silence, but rather the opposite.